To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's
puertas.
a wild ride in the wilderness.
When invisibility doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are going to be some armchair Imagineers today and look at Rock and Roller Coaster. This is something that's been thrown around in social media, people saying that they're going to retheme Rock and Roller Coaster to something different. So we thought we would take a shot and try to figure out what we would change Rock and Roller Coaster to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people have been talking about changing the band in what that's associated with the ride a lot, but maybe we can do something different than that. So it's been something that's been thrown around for quite some time. So I think it's a good discussion to have here. Make sure you guys go out and share the show though, because it really will help us grow. So Mikhailo, let's get into this. Rock and Roller Coaster has been around for quite some time. I love it. I love the ride. I think it's a great, exhilarating ride. It's one of those thrill rides. I mean, it's a headliner in amongst the headliner park, right? Like everything there is a headliner. All the lines are pretty crazy. But like this one, I feel like is almost maybe an afterthought sometimes, because of Tower of Terror and because of Star Wars, and now you've got Toy Story Land. So it needs a little love, I believe.
Yeah, and I've been saying that for a while, where it's hard to be a ride in this park because there's so many heavy hitters in this park, just like so many really great rides. And I remember back in the day when it was like Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster. Those were like the two rides, and now there's like new lands and Star Wars rides, and there's just so much else to do that these two rides do get kind of overlooked a little bit. But yeah, um I mean there's a couple different ways you can go with this if you're thinking retheme. um I'm just gonna throw it out there right away, is like, what if they just completely redid what's in there? Like, what if they completely redid the space? And that may be a discussion for another time. But in the realm of bands, some funny things that I've seen online is like Hannah Montana, and so people will
It's the
retheme
best
the
of both
guitar.
worlds.
Exactly, people will like retheme the guitar to like pink and make it like Hannah Montana. Um, but yeah, in terms of bands, um, I know that back in the day, Disney only really landed on Aerosmith because they were the cheapest, kinda, and like the most readily available. They actually went through a bunch of other bands that seemed to be even like a little more scandalous than like Aerosmith for this ride.
I feel like U2 was part of the discussion. Like I think they were really gonna hit on that one, but then that kind of fell apart, and I don't know why. Like maybe it was too expensive. Maybe Bono got upset about something. Who knows? But um, they did not get U2. I can't remember the other ones offhand.
I think, well, okay, like for some reason Kiss is coming to mind, but I don't think that. I think maybe they asked Kiss at one point and they were like, it's going to be like $2 million or something like that, and Disney was like, okay, no. But then I thought it was like the Rolling Stones was one of them, and again they were just asking for like so much money. Um, but yeah, it was bands like that they were kind of going to do that. But yeah, like I mean, it's called the Rock and Roller Coaster. However, if they're gonna want it to appeal to like a younger generation, or just kind of like appeal to like people in general, not that Aerosmith doesn't, but Aerosmith is definitely more of like a dad band now, like bands that older dads like. Um, it's like, what if they I mean, like, what if they like threw like Billie Eilish in there or something, or even if they made it just kind of like a now type thing, like a bunch of bands together, um, and just like
That'd be
did like
kind
a
of cool.
giant remix as you go through the roller coaster.
That would be interesting if they were kind of like, I don't know what if you have the amount of time to throw in different bands as you're flying through that building.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting. That's a good thought. Like, because you could bring in like they did with the Super Bowl halftime last year. Like you start with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem and ends up showing up. Like you could do something like that with a few different bands.
And I'm almost thinking like I don't know if you've ever listened to these, Brian. Not that you're old, but like I don't know if you've ever listened to like mashups where it's just like
Oh yeah,
a bunch of bits of songs. And so it could be something like that where it's like these two songs started out and they're kind of mashed up together, and then a bunch of other songs get put in, and then I think it's the European version of the ride. Um, the Disney World ride is definitely the best rock and roller coaster, but the Disneyland Paris ride, it's all just like trussing and lights as you go through. So it's not even really, other than like the soundtrack and like the pre-show, because the pre-show actually I think is a little more involved because it shows Aerosmith like putting together the track or whatever. It's kind of funny. Um, but it's like they could, once you're in the ride, they could theme that to whatever because it's just like trussing and lights. So it's like they could do something like that. And I don't really think on that ride anything is too like Aerosmithy. Like I don't think anything is really kind of like just Aerosmith. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess they could do something like that. And it's like you're on your way, to like this giant concert somewhere. Um but yeah, again, like that would be like a reskinned kind of a ride where it's like you're doing kind of the same thing, only this time it's not Aerosmith that you're doing it for. So, but yeah.
I mean, that kind of gets into how I've been thinking about this. Like, if you take Tower of Terror, out in Disneyland, and they changed it to a Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and they completely, like, they kept the ride system, but they completely reskinned it. Like they gutted everything else and they put Guardians in there, and it's a completely different thing than Tower of Terror. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. Like, if we're gonna redo this, let's redo it. So my first thought was that we're in a studios park. Yes, you're in a sound studio or recording studio, but the idea of Hollywood studios now isn't really a working studio. It's putting you inside of the movie. Like, that's the idea behind it. So, you look at Tower of Terror. Yeah, you're getting put into the story. You're dropping in the elevator just like everyone else, just like the main characters did. And it's the same idea with Star Wars and Toy Story Land. You're in Andy's backyard. You're walking through Batuu, like you're actually on that planet is the idea. You go into the cartoon at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So you're put into the story. So my first thought is, why do we have a recording studio then? Like, where does that really fit anymore? So I'm thinking, let's put a good Disney movie, a good Disney story in there. And so I've been struggling what that movie should be. I want something with a good chase scene. And one of the things that I came up with was National Treasure. There's a lot of, I know, right? Like, I got you there, huh?
Okay, real quick, Brian. We're gonna we're gonna pump the brakes here. I'm completely with you, Brian. However, I have to point this out. And Kristen, if you're watching, I'm sure you are dying laughing also. We just the past 2 days recently watched the National Treasure movies, and I just turned the first one on because we were like, okay, we're gonna go to bed, let's watch a movie, and I was like, let's do National Treasure. We stayed up till like midnight watching this thing because we were just so enthralled. So it's
Yes.
hilarious that you brought that up because just the past and I was at a gig last night and Kristen texted me and she was like, I'm watching National Treasure too. So like she's 100% behind you, Brian. But continue.
So a couple of weeks ago, we did turn on the first National Treasure. These are good movies. Like,
They are
this
good
makes
movies.
sense. And we had to get Jacob to watch it because he needs to be watching this. He loves history, American history. So we needed to get him in front of this. Like, who else wouldn't want to watch someone steal the Declaration of Independence?
Because they had to.
Because they had to. um And so then we they put out this National Treasure, I believe it's called Edge of Edge, I can't remember, Edge of something. But it's a TV show. It's got Catherine Zeta-Jones and some other people in it. Riley shows up for a little bit. And it was really good. And I think that, if they can keep that momentum going on these shows, on this story or this franchise, why not get it into a movie? So, or into this ride, so that, like, I want to keep the ride system the way it is. I think it's an awesome ride. I love the launch at the beginning. Why can't that launch be put into the storyline as, here come the bad guys, we need to go, type of thing? I mean, obviously you can redo it so it doesn't look like a limousine anymore, a super stretch limousine. And maybe it looks like a train or a car or something that you have to get on so you can get out of there before the bad guys catch you. And then they start chasing you, right? Like, through the building, you're upside down, you're flying around. I think that would be a lot of fun to do. I think your queue, like, they could add more into the pre-show, that maybe you're discovering the item of the treasure, like, in the pre-show, and then the bad guys come, you got to jump on the ride and get out of there. It's gonna work, I'm telling you.
I mean, honestly, I'm 100% into it. And it's actually kind of giving me um the Mummy roller coaster vibes out in Universal. Even though it's like that's not really what it would be about, but in like National Treasure, it does kind of you get those vibes when they find the treasure. But it would be very much kind of like Washington D.C., like American history type stuff, which still would be cool. Um, but yeah, like I think that would be awesome. I think it would be. I mean, like, I guess there's just really kind of like what's the like, so like being Imagineers right now, like what's the reason? Like, why are we running away from things? Um, and I feel like what Imagineers usually do is they take something that's supposed to be like pretty like ordinary, like a presentation or like the opening of like a new gala or something, and then make it like something goes wrong and you need to like fix it. um so I was almost thinking, like, what if they were opening up um like a new like a new gala or something with like the treasure at it, um and like these guys show up to like steal the treasure or something and you have to like chase after them or something like that. But yeah, there's always that like why, like why are we doing this, like why is there a chase happening, and there was a chase in that movie that happened, so like that's definitely a thing. But yeah, I think that would be real cool, and it's definitely giving me Universal Mummy vibes, which is actually um one of my favorite rides there besides all of the Harry Potter stuff, because that ride was actually pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, the only thing I see difficult um, with this ride is that a lot of the queue is outside, and then you only have like that little stretch of coming in, and then a lot of the queue before the pre-show, and then you getting inside. Um, so it's like you get inside, they do the pre-show, and then you're basically in that like main queue to get on the ride. So I don't know. I think it would be difficult to theme the queue just because there just isn't all that much there. I don't know. At least for me, like I think that would be difficult.
Yeah, but we're Imagineers and we can do anything. So we can gut the entire queue and put brand new switchbacks in, make everything so that it just fills the story. Like it could even be a Expedition Everest type of thing where you're going through a museum at one point. And then you go into like the pre-show where they're showing you the artifact being found, and then you need to move on, right? It could be something simple like that. I think National Treasure would be good. The other place I kept thinking was Star Wars because I'm a Star Wars nerd, and I think we've got enough Star Wars in the park at this point. So I don't know that we want to do a Star Wars type of thing, but I know now. So this is kind of irrelevant at this point, but I know that they've been fighting the timeline issue with Star Wars in Galaxy's Edge because they want to get Mandalorian and Grogu involved, and it's not part of that timeline. Like Mandalorian comes way before the timeline that Batu is set in. So, you could do something like Mandalorian and Grogu at in the Rock and Roller Coaster. But then I think we're starting to overdo the Star Wars stuff in the park. Now it's becoming Star Wars Studios instead of Hollywood Studios. So, like I keep trying to think of a Disney movie that has a good chase scene because, like I said, I want to keep that launch, and that's just the only thing I can think of is that you're going to be chased for some reason.
Yeah, and I actually had that same idea with Mandalorian because there's a couple things you have to hit here too, and I feel like National Treasure may or may not hit these things depending on who you talk to. But it's like there has to be relevancy. Like it has to be something that people would be excited about to go to the park to see. So it's like the IP that you use has to be popular like at the time. And so Mandalorian checks all those boxes, but it doesn't check the box of it's literally on the other side of the park from Star Wars. But you do bring up a good point that like timeline wise, he's not supposed to be there. And that would be cool if actually, holy crap. I just had a great idea. What if because the Mandalorian has that like bike that he rides at one point, right?
Sure. Yep.
What if they use the Tron type ride system where they put you into a vehicle and then you ride the roller coaster that way?
That would be cool.
That
I
would
would
be
take it a
sweet.
step further, being the old man that I am, and say that it would be super cool if we're going the Star Wars route now. I think it would be super cool to have a Return of the Jedi speeder bike chase.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like those types of bikes.
Complete with Luke cutting down a speeder bike with his lightsaber. I think that'd be just awesome.
Yeah.
It has to be.
But yeah, I think that would be cool. But again, it's kind of like the continuity of Star Wars being on one side of the park and then also being on the other side of the park just kind of dropped in.
Right.
I feel like isn't that great. And this is another thing I wanted to bring up is that there are parts of Universal Studios that I feel like they are going to start to like redo. Um, at least I kind of hope that they do. But that's another thing is that like if we're going to redo this ride, what if we redo like the whole section of the park? Now, there's a couple of things to that. One, this section of the park, I feel like is the best, like other than obviously like Toy Story and Star Wars, like this section of the park is the best area like theme wise, and I feel like it doesn't really need to be touched. So it's like that's one thing that's like kind of in my head where it's like, yeah, it would be cool to like redo that ride, maybe redo Tower of Terror, even though I don't want them to. And then like have that whole area be um like a new area. The first thing that's coming to mind that I know that they can't do is like Avengers Campus. That was real cool out in Disneyland, but because of rules, they can't do it in Disney World. But that's like a thing that's coming to mind where it's like they change it over to Avengers Campus. But again, it's like that whole area back there. Like there are areas of this park that they need to do things to way before Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard.
I think that is an awesome area. I love walking down towards Tower of Terror, and I think you could leave all that, maybe spruce it up if you really need to, but I think you can leave all that. Because you make that left turn into Rock and Roller Coaster, you can change the theming over there without it affecting Sunset Boulevard. I think you would be absolutely fine to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me into my next idea. Everyone is clamoring and wanting and begging for something Encanto.
Yep.
So why not make Rock and Roller Coaster Encanto? Now, my first thought was there's no chase scene, but why can't there be? Like you said, where's the why? Right? So we're walking in, maybe it's just a matter of us getting to visit with Mirabel, and we're going to walk into their casa, the Casa de Familia. Maybe it's just as simple as that. And we get in there and something with the house breaks. And us getting onto whatever the ride vehicle may end up being is the house taking us for a ride. And then as we're flying through the coaster, like you see things from the movie popping up all over the place instead of road signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be a really neat idea as well.
And not to like put you down, Brian, but maybe I mean and honestly that would be a great idea. Maybe we're thinking about this too hard. I was almost thinking just kind of like with Encanto, just pretty simple. Kind of like you go and it's like this like she's showing us all of these like the family members and everything. So like each scene is a family member and she's singing that first song. Like welcome to the family Madrigal, and like
Oh yeah.
like just going through that. But yeah, I guess and it's I think of that because it's like what song do we use? Would it be that song or would it be like we don't talk about Bruno? Like maybe Bruno's actually, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe Bruno's done something again, or Bruno made another what's it called? Like premonition or something like that. Yeah. Bruno saw the future and it was bad. And so we're not talking about Bruno again anymore. I don't know. But yeah, like one of those like really popular songs. But yeah, that was
maybe it's just, if you remember the scene where she goes into Bruno's room, maybe we get in there and everything that happens to her while she's in that room starts happening to us. And that's where the ride comes in, that you need to get on this to get out of his room.
Mhm.
And then you could have that opening song at as you're coming in pre-show type of stuff, and they're showing you some different rooms, and then you go into Bruno, you get on the ride to get out of there, and we don't talk about Bruno could start playing.
Yeah, something like that. I think that would be really cool. Um, I know when thinking about this, Encanto was one of like the big movies where I'm like, okay, this really doesn't have anything. Like I think this would be good. It's just hard doing exactly what we're doing, and I'm sure Imagineers, um, doing what we're doing, figuring out exactly how that's like how the ride is going to be and how that would play out, theming wise. Another thing that I thought of was Cars, because you've got that Cars ride right behind. Um, and I feel like Cars is a decent. I mean, they have the Roadsters out in land, so it's like this was just kind of like an idea I had. I actually don't really like it, but it's like, what if that whole area back there turned into Cars, and that was what that ride was? Was there's a Cars ride which is Rock and Roller Coaster, and then like the other Cars attraction that's like right behind it. So it's like you could go race with, or you could go drive with these cars, and then go see Lightning, um, at his show or whatever. But I mean, I'm not. It was just a thought, just because like I like continuity. Like I like areas and lands making sense, and I feel like this is the hard part of like reimagining things, because like the whole area when it was put together made sense kind of, and so it's like putting something else in there and having it fully make sense without completely redoing everything, I feel like is pretty difficult. So that was one easy one where it was like, okay, there's cars right behind it. We could make that area cars. The whole area back there could be cars. But I'm not married to it. I'm not it's not that great of an idea.
I mean, I could definitely see, like maybe you're climbing into Lightning McQueen, if that's a thing. Like you're getting into his car, and you can, and you're, that's who you're riding through the thing, and like it could just simply be a race that you're in with Lightning McQueen, and when you go upside down, the car got hit, and it's trying not to crash, and he saves it from breaking or actually crashing. You save it and continue on your way, even though you went upside down. It's just things like that could work for something like that. I personally don't like the idea of the same types of things on both coasts.
Mm-hmm.
It like it drove me crazy that Galaxy's Edge was in Disneyland, but partly because then I wanted to spend time in it, but but we've got an awesome Cars Land out there. Like I don't think they should touch that in Florida, because everyone's just going to start comparing it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'd rather see something brand new, like the Encanto, like the National Treasure. Like I think we've kind of talked ourselves out of the Star Wars thing, but like done correctly, it could work. Look at Star Tours sitting outside of Star Wars Land. Like it could work. But we've also got too much Star Wars in that park anyway. So I think what we've hit on so far, I think are really great ideas.
So now, Brian, what if, go with me here.
Oh boy.
This isn't a big go with me here, but what would we do if we completely bulldoze that space? Like what if like we took the roller coaster out, we even like just flattened the land there? What would you put there?
I would go with something Tangled. It's a very popular movie, and all she gets is a bathroom. Um, so yeah, I think if you're gonna do it, you build. I don't care what it is, as long as it's a ride, and I get to sit on a boat with all the lanterns going up in the air around me. That's like the be all end all right there. It needs to be tangled. It needs to have the boat, and it needs to have the lanterns.
And what if? Because this could be a twofer. Like what if that whole area, so not just Rock and Roller Coaster, but the Cars ride behind it. Like what if that was all gone and like that whole area could become like a tangled area? Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Absolutely. Then you've got an opening to have the tower. You could do something with that. You can, like I would even suggest bringing some of the elements from Magic Kingdom over to Hollywood Studios. Then have the Pascal search over there. Like you got to have the Snuggly Duckling as a place to eat. You have to have the castle as a place to visit. Like you could really go crazy with it.
And I was thinking about this is like, so if it's a boat ride, Disney used to do this a lot. They used to have, and we saw this in Blue Bayou. They used to have boat rides going through restaurants. I was thinking, like, if we're gonna have all this real estate, almost kind of like Be Our Guest, where you've got the castle and you've got the Beauty and the Beast show ride type thing, and there's a restaurant in there. So it's like, why not do something like that where like you've got the ride, you've got a little bit of an area, and then like tucked back in there is a restaurant. And then I thought, what if the restaurant was that style where like, and what what if at the restaurant, the restaurant area is where all of the lanterns are. So as you're going through all of these lanterns, all of a sudden it opens up into this big room, and you can see people dining to your right, and just like a whole sky of lanterns and stuff to your left. I think that would be pretty cool. Just thinking about dining in an area like that with like all the lanterns, and then kind of like it could be like a courtyard where they're having that like celebration, even though I think in the movie it was a sad celebration when they were letting the lanterns go because the princess was gone.
Right.
But it could be something like that. Just thinking about like the amazing times that I've had at restaurants like that, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I think it would be extremely popular too, to be able to get in there and see those lanterns going. I think that would be awesome. Now, let's hope they do that. I mean, that would be. I think that would be a moneymaker. So here's the thing, though: if you're going to bulldoze a space like that, what are they going to throw in there? We both know. The listener is yelling at us right now because I won't say it. You know it, Mikhailo. They're putting Frozen in there. If it's going to be bulldozed, it's Frozen. It's got to be Frozen because that's where they spend all their time and money. Look at what they're putting out in, is it Tokyo or is it Shanghai that they're putting in a whole Frozen land? If they're going to bulldoze a space and start from scratch, it's Frozen.
So then, I mean, honestly, that sounds cool too. But they've kind of they have a Frozen boat ride already. So it's like, what other?
Then they put Maelstrom back in it because
I know, yeah.
I mean, they've done that, right? They've created things, a full land, and then taken whatever the little thing was and changed it. So,
well, yeah. But yeah, it's like, what if they didn't want to? Because I mean, I'm guessing you're talking about Star Wars and Star Tours. It's like, yeah, but like what other kind of ride could a Frozen ride be other than a Norris boat ride? I don't know.
Uh,
I'm struggling with that.
I got an easy one for you. I mean, we could even keep the ride system that they have for Rock and Roller Coaster and put Frozen in there. It could be from Frozen 2 when they're on that water horse. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll call it water horse, and
Oh yeah.
flying down the rapids and everything.
Mhm.
There you go. You got your ride. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I think Frozen is amazing. I don't know that I have an appetite for Frozen 3. I think we've fully told the story. Same thing as Toy Story 5. But you know, like that's where the money is. The kids love Frozen,
Mhm.
and they're gonna get every penny out of it that they can. So if they have a space that's completely blank slate, they're going Frozen. Especially if they've got another movie coming out. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah. This is hard.
I know. Once you throw Frozen in there, it's kind of like, well, oh well, so much for that
Okay,
idea.
well there it is.
All right, so we want to hear your guys' ideas and thoughts. What would you do with this space? Would you keep the ride system as is? Where would you put it? We'd love to hear about it. Come on out to Instagram or Facebook community. Let us know, and we would love to talk to you about it out there.
Yeah, but like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.